am now joined exclusively by the former Rwanda Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who was also the Chief of Intelligence and former Ambassador of Rwanda to India. Lieutenant General, thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
My greatest pleasure, Adrian. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much again for making time for us. I want to start off here. If we consider that since 1959, Rwanda has had refugees, and yourself being born outside of your home country, what will it take for us to get to peace in the Great Lakes region, Rwanda, the DRC, as well as Burundi?
Well, I think what takes is dialogue, and for all parties to be involved in dialogue in trying to solve a situation in the eastern Congo, but also in the region. Because when you look at the Congo situation, where Rwanda has been involved for the last 30 years, one of the longest wars, maybe like the European wars of the Westphalia wars, are the ones which spent 30 years. Since 1996, Rwanda has been involved in the DRC with Mobutu, with Desire Kabila, with Joseph Kabila, and now with Tshisekedi. We have also had very difficult relationships with Uganda, fighting in Kisangani, closing of the borders, and those kind of things. Our relationship with Tanzania were not even better in 2013, when President Kikwete and President Kagame had fraught relationships. With the Burundi, since 2015, Rwanda and the Burundi don't sit eye to eye. We are now talking about the war in the DRC. Maybe the next war is going to be now something to do with Burundi. Because even yesterday, the president of Burundi declared that he's going to fight Rwanda. Now, if you want a solution, it must be comprehensive. People talk about the Tutsi flight in Congo. It's true, and it's a fact. That one I don't dispute at all. People talk about the Rwandan genocide. It's a fact, it took place. But if you're going to solve the problem of the region, you're not going to solve the problem of the Tutsis by declaring war on other people and think you're going to solve the problem of the Tutsis and even solve the problem of the genocide. If you look at the DRC, we talk about 100,000 Tutsis who could have run out of Congo into Rwanda. But how many millions of other tribes, the Barega, the Bahunde, the Bahutu in Congo, the Nande, all those have been running away for the last 30 years. Now, suppose you were to go in there and liquidate the FDLR. How are you going to do it? You only be able to do it when you are fighting the FDLR in Congo. So even today, remove M23 and you go in now to fight the FDLR. It means again, that is another war that's going to make people again displaced. So what is the solution? The solution is, first of all, Congo to talk to the M23. Rwanda to talk to its adversaries, because Rwanda has got a lot of adversaries. Even in this region alone, in South Africa, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, the majority of the refugees are Rwandese. But when you talk to Rwanda, they just indicate as if there is no problem in Rwanda. Why are these people still in exile? It's simply because they don't feel safe. And if they support the FDLR, why do they support the FDLR?
So what would you say has made peace elusive for the region, specifically also looking at the role of Rwanda?
Absolutely. If you don't do that, if you don't look at even if today you solve the problem of the M23, the Rwandan situation will remain, because the refugees who are in Mozambique, in Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Uganda, they won't disappear, they will not disappear, they'll be everywhere. So you cannot therefore say, if I solve the problem of the FDLR, whether the problem of M23, the problem is solved. The FDLR situation is going to remain. So what is the solution that is being given? Liquidate and eliminate the FDLR. What does it mean? Kill them. How can governments meet and they are talking about liquidation of citizens of a country? Now they talk about genocide. It took place. I was there. I'm one of those who helped in stopping the genocide, and I'm Tutsi. So this is something I'm talking from the position of understanding. But since that time, has Rwanda ever sat to discuss with the people it ever defeated? No.
Yeah. Just quickly on the FDLR,
yes.
Quite recently we had a press briefing with our Minister of Defense, the Deputy Minister of Defense, as well as our International Relations Minister.
Yeah.
And the Minister was then explaining, this is now the Defense Minister, Enji Muteka, explaining what happened when there was the firing of shots, as she describes it, over their heads in the Sake region. She then says that it then emerged that the shots were actually fired from the DRC into Rwanda, and Rwanda then had to retaliate. Is that your understanding of what is going on here as well? That it is the FDLR that are also being seen by Rwanda as aggressors who are based in the DRC with the backing of President Felix Tshisekedi?
I have no reason to believe that Rwanda should not be concerned about the FDLR. Any country that has got people, the enemies armed, has to be concerned. But how do you solve it? You solve it by talking to those people and looking at their concerns. Let me tell you, Adrian, if you have got elections in Rwanda and the president allocates himself 99.9%, how do you expect...
Allocates himself? He says it's a democratic process.
Well, I'm telling you now, 99.9%. And you have been in power for the last 30 years. Even Mandela, if he was here, if he was still alive, I don't think he would be electing 99.9%. So you must also look at why are these people oppose the government of Rwanda. And when I talk about the refugees, don't talk about the people who are in Congo, the FDLR only. How about the refugees in these countries I have told you? In Malawi, in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Mozambique, in Europe, everywhere. And by the way, including the survivors of genocide. When I'm talking about the refugees who are now the Rwandan refugees, it includes survivors of genocide. It includes Tutsi like me who fought for the regime which is in power. Now, if you don't address that, and you think you are only going to address the situation of the M23, it's half a measure. Another thing is, how are you going to solve the problem of the region between Rwanda and other governments? If Burundi is saying what they are saying, if they are crossing borders with Uganda, so what happens? Maybe the war is going to shift from Congo to Burundi. And exactly as we speak now, the M23 seems to be moving to take Bukavu. If we take Bukavu, it means you're in South Kivu and in the plain of Rutsizi. In the plain of Rutsizi, that means you are going to have a link between the M23 and the Red Tabara who are fighting the government of Burundi. So what you have in the North Kivu is likely going to shift into South Kivu. So the issue is the issue of leadership. When we talk about political will, you cannot only talk about the political will of President Tshisekedi, and you don't talk about the political will of President Kagame. It must go hand in hand, it must be in tandem. And don't pretend that the problems you see in Congo are not the problems that exist in Rwanda. Because Rwanda has a similar number of refugees than Congo, if not more. I've told you where they are. Yeah. You can check.
The M23, as we just told our viewers now, we have a 14th soldier now, South African soldier, who has died since in the past week, just over a week now, since this incident first happened in Sake. What is it, though, about the M23 that makes them so well equipped to be able to hold on to a war, or even a civil war for that matter, for so long? Who's pumping them?
Well, give it a proper historical perspective. In 2021, possibly maybe 2022, I don't remember very well, President Tshisekedi had a deal with President Museveni of deploying Ugandan troops in Congo and the construction of roads from Uganda into DRC. They also made a deal with Burundi to deploy troops in South Kivu, and Rwanda was not included. And the leadership in Rwanda was annoyed. And it is on record. President Kagame says, I have not been invited in Congo. We shall go there uninvited. And when he said we shall go there uninvited, that's when M23 started the war. Now, this notion of saying that Congo has not been collaborating is not completely true. Let me give you a historical perspective. During Joseph Kabila's time, Rwanda had joint operations with Congo. Those were called Chimya 1, Chimya 2, when Rwandan troops were allowed to go in Congo and hunt FDLR. They also had another operation called Umoja Wetu for very many years, and it killed people and dislocated people, and NGOs complained. In 2019, President Tshisekedi invited the Rwandan troops into Congo to go and kill the leadership of FDLR, and they did. Now, these things, when they say FDLR, how many times does Rwanda want to be allowed to go into Congo? I'm giving you all those incidences when they went there in Congo and on the invitation and permission of the government of Congo. Mark you, at one point in time, Rwanda had the chief of the army of Congo was Rwandese for years. So what did he do? Now today he says FDLR. Why didn't he solve the problem that time? So all these things, FDLR does exist, and I can tell you, for Rwanda to have concern is legitimate. And for having think about the Tutsis is legitimate. But what about other tribes? You don't go to save one ethnicity and then you eliminate 10 ethnicities and finish them.
Okay, we're going to continue the conversation now with Lieutenant General Nywamasa after the short break. One of the other issues that I want to look into is what the future looks like, but also when we speak about the future, accountability. Who should be held accountable for what we're currently seeing in the atrocities that are being carried out, specifically in the DRC, the instability that we're seeing in the DRC and the broader Great Lakes region. The question, I just quickly want to go back around this question around the M23. The United Nations expert report is saying that the M23 is being supported by the Rwandan Defense Force. Do you know about this?
Well, yes, I know about it. It's not the first group that we supported.
That you supported as the Rwanda Defense Force?
It's an open secret. I don't know why even people want to hide about that.
Because the Rwanda government is denying that?
Well, the Rwandan armed forces toppled Mobutu. And at the beginning, we denied. And let me tell you, in 1996, I thought it was a legitimate cause. Because at that time, Rwanda was threatened. And they had to defend themselves. But after overthrowing Mobutu and returning of the refugees, we should have changed our course. It should have been Rwanda talking to the DRC on how we can be able to live together. Number two, there is a misconception that M23 is a Banyamulenge thing. That's not true. The Banyamulenge thing is a long time ago. It ended in 2002, actually 1998, when General Kabarebe left Kinshasa. That is the end of the Banyamulenge issue, got finished. For your information, during Kabila's time, Azarias Ruberwa, who is the Munyamulenge, was the vice president. Nyarugabo, who is the Munyamulenge, was the deputy speaker in the government. General Malik was the deputy army commander. Bisengimana was the head of the police. There are so many, even today, there are a lot of Munyamulenge who are brigade commanders, regional commanders, battalion commanders, including General Masunzu, who has just been appointed recently as a zonal commander, and General Gasita, who has been appointed recently. They even have a minister Munyamulenge in the government. The Minister of Infrastructure in Congo is a Munyamulenge. So when people here in South Africa talk about Munyamulenge, it's a misconception, it's a lie, it's not true. Mm-hmm. The issue of Munyamulenge is different from M23. So people are confusing these things. And definitely, when they talk about the Sun City, the Sun City agreement, well, we participated in that with some of the colleagues I've seen talking about it. But at that time, who were involved? It was the RCD that was mainly a Tutsi group. There was RCD Kisangani of Wamba Dia Wamba. Then there was Bemba, MLC. All those became vice presidents to Kabila. And when they became vice presidents to Kabila, which agreement did Kabila violate when he allowed them in the government? And these people have remained there. Bemba is in Kinshasa now, he's a minister. And all these people I've told you are in the government. Mm-hmm. But what happened is there were some unresolved issues of resources and other things. And that's why you have got CNDP eventually, M23 of 2012, and this M23. This has nothing to do with the Tutsis. It has nothing to do with the differences between governments, because the relationship between Tshisekedi and Kagame between 2018 and 2021 was the most cordial. Check how many times did Tshisekedi go to Kigali. And even on the burial of Tshisekedi's father, Kagame was there. So what happened there in between? Where was the FDLR then at that time? When they were fraternizing like that, where was the FDLR? And what about the Tutsis at that time? Who are then they talk about who are in Rwanda? Where were they when Kagame was fraternizing with Tshisekedi? The issue is different. It's not political. It's not social. It's not about the plight of the people. It's about control of the Congo. And like I told you, when Uganda went in there, Burundi went in there, Rwanda was not in there, the Rwandans thought they are being isolated. But Congo is a sovereign country. They can invite whom they want, and they may disinvite whom they don't want. At that time, they didn't invite Rwanda. So Rwanda should have tried to talk to Congo and see how they could be invited if need be. But because they thought they can use their strength, that's what they did.
So control of the Congo means control of the mineral wealth of the nation?
Mainly. And to do that, you need to control the politics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So who are the actors that are behind all of this? Who are the people that are pulling the strings?
Well, I would say to a very great extent, it has really been Rwanda. To a very great extent. Because all those people I've mentioned...
But is it Rwanda acting on its own? Is it being propped up by other nations, foreign nations?
I don't think so. But I think in a way, for other reasons, Rwanda has done other things and can be tolerated. Not that they want them to take Congo for their own benefits, because they can do it without them. They can still be able to do it without them. And I think Tshisekedi would also don't mind to work maybe with those other foreign forces we are saying. I never saw when I was there, and even today, that another government is pushing Rwanda to be able to do that. I hear people say it could be possible now, but at that time I never saw that kind of situation.
Yeah, and the reason that I asked this question as well is we shared with our listeners, our viewers during the week a Business Day report. Yeah. This is in relation to a report from the United Nations, a midterm report by a group of experts that said that the M23 forces in April 2024 managed to seize Rubaya, including its mineral production. Mm. And based on that, a road was also built that would lead into Rwanda. Mm. And once the minerals then get into Rwanda, they would be certified as minerals from Rwanda. Yeah. And that's a point that has been stressed by the ambassador of Rwanda, the ambassador of the DRC to the United Nations. Amongst the calls that she's making as well is that there should be an embargo on minerals being sold from Rwanda because those are minerals that are actually coming illegally from the DRC.
That is true. That is true, but you don't need, Rwanda doesn't need to have support of the government to do that. They do it and they sell them to international companies who are ready to pay money. But Rwanda's influence and possibly the impunity you see is based on other things. For example, going to Capo de Gallo and they secure French interests. Then the French interests are going to keep Rwanda's situation in Congo under wraps. Then the British, Rwanda makes a deal with the British to take some refugees from Britain to Rwanda. And when you do that, then Britain is going to keep quiet about it. Then you are going to have, the United States of America. Rwanda does certain actions which possibly Americans feel helps them in let me say, Central African Republic, where Rwanda is deployed and the Russians are deployed in there, and then definitely the Rwandans are there, and maybe they talk to the Americans for whatever reason. So these things go on like that. But Rwanda has been taking Congolese resources really for a long time.
Was it even during your 10 years Chief of Staff?
Yeah,
How did you guys do it?
Yeah.
How did you do it during your time as the Chief of Staff?
So it's not the soldiers who do it.
Mm-hmm.
It is the civilian Rwandan companies, Crystal Ventures and others who do it. What the soldiers do is that for them, they just capture the area, and no soldier in Rwanda, by the way, they are very disciplined soldiers. The Rwandan soldiers are very disciplined, very well trained, and extremely professional. They don't go into mining, never. It is the civilian companies who are under the ruling party, the RPF, who do the mining, who do the selling, and the soldiers are not involved at all.
But they play a role, though, in terms of the security.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They play safe passage. They do escort those things they escort for them. Yeah, that's they do.
I will quickly want to bring you in on the SADC meeting and the resolution that was made there. Part of the resolution is to mandate the SADC organ Troika of Defense and Security Cooperation to engage all state and non-state parties to the conflict to a ceasefire process to protect the lives and facilities and smooth flow of humanitarian support. But there's also then the call to have the defense ministers, chiefs of defense and troops contributing to the countries, to the DRC, to ensure that the SAMI DRC troops are safe and facilitate immediate repatriation of the deceased troops and so forth. Is this the right approach? And SADC is also saying, like the EAC had said, let's have a dual summit.
Absolutely. I agree. Engagement is the best thing to do. These issues are not going to be resolved by war. I've told you this war has been going on for the last 30 years. And simply because it has been held piecemeal. While we were discussing the issues of Congo and Rwanda, there has never been any discussion between the issues between Burundi and Rwanda. But even the Rwandese themselves, the Rwandese who are outside the country and the Rwandese and the government of Rwanda, that has never been done. Even if today, like I told you, we are going to solve the problem of the M23, the Rwandese opposition will always remain there, in the Congo and everywhere. So when you talk about the meeting of ministers of defense, the chiefs, that's fine and that's good. It's the best way to go.
Yeah.
But then what are they going to address? If they are going to address only the M23, in 3-4 years, we shall have an M23 4 or 5.
And the President Museveni is saying as well, and I know that you say that it's not entirely true that the DRC doesn't want to participate, but he is saying that we will force President Tshisekedi to actually speak to the M23 and engage the M23, because that needs to happen.
Yeah. Well, they can force him to talk with M23 and even come with a piecemeal resolution, just like they did in 2002 and 2009 with CNDP, in 2013. But even when Tshisekedi is gone, if you have not solved the fundamental problem of the DRC, still there will be something else that's going to come.
Yeah.
So they must be able to look at some of these things. Forcing Tshisekedi is one thing. They don't need to force him anyway. I think you should accept to talk to them. But you should ask Rwanda to also talk to the people who are opposed to Rwanda, because there is no way it's going to have the M23 gone, and then you have Rwanda and these other people, again in Congo, displacing people, saying that they are looking for the FDLR. Otherwise, you are going to have a problem.
Lieutenant General, quick 2 questions.
Yes.
This is now on you as the individual.
Yeah.
Is your life still under threat?
Well, you know, I cannot be able to guarantee. I'm not hunting myself. Somebody else is hunting me. Maybe you should be able to answer the question and say they have stopped.
Okay, let me ask you this one. Do you still fear for your life?
Oh, a lot of Rwandese fear for their lives. That's why hundreds of thousands of Rwandese are in exile. So just like other people, even me, it's the same thing.
And you still believe that President Paul Kagame is behind it?
Because, you see, I'm not arranging anything. This is a court decision. The court here in South Africa ruled in Kagiso that I was targeted by the government of Rwanda. People were arrested, some confessed, and they were convicted to 12 years in prison. So this is not hypothetical, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, that's true.
Okay.
And my friend here was killed.
Patrick, yes.
Patrick Karegeya. And then even the court in Randburg also ruled that the people who killed him came from Rwanda, sponsored by Rwanda, and they are actually now in Rwanda. And this is the court. This is a court decision. It's not an allegation. It's a court decision. You may not believe me, but at least believe your courts.
Yeah, but that court's decision also makes reference to the Spanish indictment.
Yeah.
The Spanish indictment and fall away, but now we understand that it has been revived again back in 2017. Have you heard anything from the Spanish as well? And what's your take on the allegations that you also played a key role in during the genocide and the killing of Spanish people?
No. Because that one has already been taken off. It has already been lost. Even the French case has already been ruled. I even have judgments talking about this thing that never happened. So that thing that no longer exists now.
That's no longer a case for you. Yeah, just quickly there's a statement that just came in actually. Rwanda rejects the summit accusations against the RDF. Rwanda rejects the accusations against the Rwanda Defense Force made in the statement by SEDEC. The RDF defends Rwanda's borders from threats and protection of civilians. It does not attack civilians. What's your take on that?
Well, you see, we are all soldiers. When you throw bombs and you throw grenades and all these kind of things, you don't know where they go. And particularly in a populated area like Eastern Congo. So you can't say we never attacked civilians, as if when you are throwing those bombs, you are even going to direct them where to go. And when people are in camps, are moving, all these kind of things. The fact of the matter is, you do certain things and you admit them. Several times I have seen President Kagame on TV admitting that they have got forces in Congo. On 2 occasions, he said, if our forces are in Congo, why should they not be there? So that's an exception, accepting. Number 2, they talk about defensive measures. Where? In Rwanda or in Congo? These defensive measures are in Congo. The Rwanda peace agreement between Rwanda and the DRC, which is supposed to be signed, talks about withdrawing of Rwandan troops. It can't be on Rwandan territory. It must be on Congolese territory. So when you are there and you are fighting, and there are people all over the place, you can't claim nobody dies. So are you telling me when you watch on the TV and you see hundreds of thousands of women and children running away, are they running away because somebody is throwing some balloons? They're not running away from balloons. They're not running away because somebody is giving them flowers. They're running away because they are certain because they are being killed. So for anybody to deploy troops in a country and people are displaced and we say, we don't do this, what do you do? When you throw bombs, when you see people running, what happens? We have seen civilian bodies lying down in Congo dead. We can't know who killed them. But the Rwandans cannot say that it's not us. It could be anybody who's involved in the war.
Yeah, and you don't think that the summit DRC should withdraw?
Well, that is a political military decision that can be taken by South Africa.
Okay.
But all I can say is, I think Nadir, when it was deployed, they thought they were going to fight a rebel movement. They never anticipated that they were going to fight a rebel movement and a government.
Okay. Do you know what? The former Rwandan Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who is also the former Chief of Intelligence, and at some point you were very, very good friends with President Paul Kagame.
Yeah.
That relationship, of course, has now broken down. But I want to ask you about this particular individual. Do you know Fulgence Kayishema?
Fulgence Kayishema. I've read in the papers.
You've read in the papers about him?
Yeah.
Because I saw the story around his extradition. You're not too sure about the role that he would have played during the genocide?
No, I wouldn't know. But even when I was in Rwanda, I think I used to read some articles and I think even some of these things about Kayishema. And by the way, okay, go on.
No, continue.
And by the way, when they talk about Kayishema and the people who committed genocide, it gives me the reason to tell you about even the FDLR, for example. Not a single person, by the way, in the FDLR was indicted by the International Criminal Tribunal in Arusha. Not a single one. Now, we come here and people are saying genocidaire. That's not entirely true. Why? 95% of the FDLR are in Rwanda. They're in the Rwandan army and the Rwandan reserve forces. And a lot of them are actually now fighting in Congo with the Rwandan army. Now, you don't become a genocidaire in Congo today when you cross to Rwanda and you become an angel. And by the way, I'm the one who started recruiting and integrating the FDLR when I was still there. And I like it. And I think the Rwandan government is doing very well integrating them. But you see, don't talk about integrating people and then say, I have to go and eliminate them. Oh. It's a big contradiction. You integrate, but then you say, when they are in Congo, I will go to eliminate them. But when they come here, they are very good people I can work with.
Mm-hmm. And from the Security Council side, do you think there's anything that can happen there outside of just the statements that are being issued?
I think they should be very clear to ask Rwanda to withdraw its troops from Congo.
Well, they did.
Directly. Well,
they did.
They say it, but then have they withdrawn?
Yeah, so what should happen after that?
The Security Council has members who are really very, very strong, who have not talked categorically to tell Rwanda to get out. And I know for sure there are probably 3 or 4 countries, if they said tomorrow Kagame will withdraw. But they haven't talked.
From the P5?
Yeah. They have not talked categorically to have them withdraw. So they just, talk about in phrases but without being categoric.
A final one is on the diplomatic relationship between South Africa as well as Rwanda. We see that it's now further strained with our president labeling the Rwandan Defense Force as a militia group, which has now somewhat, the statement has been edited. I don't know if that means a retraction, but what do you read into that?
Well, I think it could have been an oversight on or that's really a typing error or whatever, but I don't think President Ramaphosa meant that. But I think the reaction from the other side was very, very unfortunate and extremely undiplomatic, because I think it could have been done better. Thereafter, I saw a lot of interviews being carried here in South Africa from Rwanda, which, by the way, you can't do in Rwanda. The Rwandese can come and carry interviews on your radio stations and call your president what they want. But your person cannot talk in Rwanda and talk about possibly what I've talked here. And even when I leave this station here, check in the comments, you are going to see, they are going to call me all sorts of names, all those kind of things. So whatever the case may be, that statement and the diplomatic relations may be strained. And I believe when the South Africans and Sumner did in general deployed in Congo, they didn't think that they are going to have another country attacking them. They thought they are going to fight rebels, not knowing that they are going to fight rebels plus a country. I believe if they knew they were going to fight the rebels plus a country, the deployment would have been different.
Okay, then thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate it.
My greatest pleasure.
That is the former Rwanda's Army Chief of Staff, Chief of Intelligence, and also former Rwandan Ambassador to India, Lieutenant General Kayumba Nyamasa, who is in the country, still on a refugee status?
No, permanent residence.
A permanent residence, no. Okay, then. Thank you so much for making time for us.